Mm. All right, here we go. Has it started? Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It has started. It says 0 viewers still. Okay, there we go. All right, I think we're live now. All right. Hey everyone, welcome to another Webflow workshop. I am your host Nelson. This is a big one. This is a big stream. A lot of people have been waiting for this. I've been waiting for it. It's been 6 months since we last talked to our CEO of Webflow, Vlad Magdalin, and just to let you guys know what's going on behind the scenes and let you know that we're working hard on a lot of stuff. We're giving you guys the opportunity to just ask your questions directly to Vlad. And I don't want to take up too much time for this hour with Vlad, but first I want to say thank you to everyone. There's a lot of people in the chat room already. Some early birds got here like at 8:44, and we start this at 10. So thank you to Nav and Brian for being the super duper early birds. I know Sean's here, Joss, Michael, Sean, Richard, Riley, Defink, Nawi. You guys, there's a lot of people in here. Thank you so much for joining us in the live chat room as well. Um,
Hey everyone.
Vlad, how you doing?
Good. By the way, I don't want to make it seem like like you and I only talk every 6 months.
No, no. We always talk. I mean, on Slack and over
Yeah.
webcam and stuff, and yeah. But it's always nice to talk with the community and share what we have going on. But how's your winter so far?
Not cold yet. San Francisco is kind of we're in this lucky zone of Mediterranean awesome weather.
Oh,
I think we've only had rain once, so
yeah.
it's nice to be here. The only thing is it gets dark too early.
Oh,
I think for
darn
about
that Earth tilting axis thing.
yeah, that's
Yes.
the next feature we're gonna work on.
Okay, we'll talk to Neil deGrasse Tyson about that one. All right. But I know a lot of people have a lot of questions, and the last time we talked was back in June, and you revealed some awesome stuff, and I can't wait for you to reveal some other awesome stuff that we're working on. So let's just get right into it. The three questions that I posted in the YouTube description uh, are the ones I see all the time. And let's just go straight into it. The Interactions 2.0, we release a teaser page and then we let people sign up for the beta. Where is it at?
So it's actually tied in very extensively with, I noticed quite a few people have mentioned the plugin ecosystem or the plugin API. The two kind of go hand in hand, and we've been doing a lot of engineering work in the background to get them both ready close to the same time. So it's the process has been a little bit more complicated than if we were working on Interactions 2.0 just by itself. But because it requires so many core changes to how Webflow works, like the main canvas and how it works, and the fact that we want to bring interactions functionality and editing functionality into the CMS editor has meant that we had to kind of rethink a lot of the core Webflow engineering sort of base infrastructure from scratch in order to enable interaction. So right now we're kind of we're in a place where a lot of the infrastructure is nearly ready to go. We're doing a lot of sort of changing. I think the expression we use on the engineering team is changing the engine while the car is running. So there's been a lot of improvements to Webflow that are kind of invisible, but they really set the stage for getting Interactions 2.0 out the door. So a lot of Interactions 2.0 code is actually already in production, sort of the baseline, because we didn't want to do a huge monolithic, one huge update that causes a bunch of bugs, which is kind of what happened with our CMS in last November. We're doing a more incremental approach. The downside to that is you don't see the features yet, and we're not. It's not quite in alpha or beta state yet where people can start playing with it. But I think very early next year is when we're going to start the actual beta, where we have to be really careful in not rolling it out to everyone right away, because there's such a shift in new functionality, and we're bringing a lot of kind of on-canvas controls with Interactions 2.0. So we're probably going to enable it similar to what we're doing right now, with some beta features like the CMS API, or like the new navigator, where they're sort of enabled via a shortcut by certain beta testers, just to make sure that we're not blowing away any existing working interactions, and we're kind of playing it safe to make sure no production sites are affected.
Yeah.
But trust me, we're working very hard on getting that over to you guys. One of the reasons we did the teaser page is just because I mean, the entire team here was super excited about the feature. We spent I think close to 3 months like really researching it and designing the actual UI of the feature. And every single Webflow site that we have right now needs the features that Interactions 2.0 brings. In some cases, we've had to sort of polyfill it with some custom code. So, you know, we want it as much as everyone else. We're just taking the kind of diligent steps to get it ready. But the thing that kind of goes hand in hand with that is what we've been doing around getting ready for the plugin API. And the core thing that is really exciting for me on that realm is the thing that new code enables. So, for example, if you've ever struggled with not having nested dynamic lists, let's say you have a list of authors and you want to show their most recent 5 blog posts, you can't really do that in Webflow today. The concept of doing nested symbols, where right now if you try to do add a symbol when you're editing a symbol, you get the dreaded you can't have a symbol inside a symbol kind of error or turn away message. And everything around making so many Webflow components more powerful, like the ability to have a dynamically bound CMS powered photo gallery, the ability to make sliders get the actual slides as a result of CMS data. So for example, let's say I wanted to make a hero section that had the top 5 featured blog posts, and I wanted to make the background of each slide, the hero image of that blog post. And then as new items are added, the UI is automatically refreshed. These kinds of things are what's enabled by the sort of core code that we're changing right now to get things ready for the plugin ecosystem. And that's unfortunately is just a lot of really low level infrastructure work that is not always predictable. Actually, it's mostly unpredictable. Things that you think might take a day, sometimes take a few weeks, and sometimes you think something's done, and then somebody's playing around in QA mode and discovers something that completely challenges all of your engineering assumptions. So as much as I would love to, give everyone in the community like a firm date and say, look, this is when we're going to launch something, we just know from how software works that it's only we're only setting ourselves up for disappointment if we kind of get that date wrong, because we'd rather surprise you guys and kind of under promise and over deliver versus ship something that's really buggy or potentially not the quality that you expect from Webflow. So we have more people than ever working on this stuff, and there's going to be, it's almost like we're in stealth mode right now in terms of preparing for a lot of big features, and the payoff is going to be pretty awesome, because once we get the core infrastructure ready, new features are going to come at a much faster pace. And we're already seeing sort of some of the benefits of that. For example, in a few weeks now, like on the 21st, we're going to be launching the CMS API, which is heavily benefited from some of this ground level work that we've been doing. Page level password protection is part of that work as well. There's a bunch of stuff that I know people in the community have been asking for forever, like cross-project copy paste, where you just want to reuse some elements of a site that you have without actually duplicating the entire site. Yeah. That's something that is enabled by this core level work. So a lot of those things are going to come very quickly after where we finalize sort of this refactor that we're doing. So yeah, I don't know. That doesn't really answer the question definitively, but
that answered a lot of questions, though. I had two other questions, which is what are the new features that are about to come out, and also the CMS API, And so I think you've made a lot of people happy in the chat room already with the whole cross-site copy-paste.
Yeah, so trust me, copy-paste solves so many problems that, and it's something, honestly, that you would kind of expect. If you're working with code, you can always copy-paste code. But if you go to something like Squarespace or Weebly or Wix, there's not really anything to cut and paste. But Webflow is this kind of magical mix in the middle where you still deal with, like really defined style systems and DOM nodes. And the ability to have like a project that you're copy pasting from means that you can now have like a style guide, right? Like you can have a site with a bunch of reusable elements, and then as you're developing new sites, you can just go open that other project, copy a node, go to your new project, paste it in, or even go to some, something like a material design showcase site that somebody made clonable on our sort of social site of our dashboard. You can actually go to those sites in preview mode, open them up in read-only mode, and copy-paste certain elements, and that'll carry across all the DOM nodes, all the styles, and merge them into the site. And the way that we're designing it is, if you make updates to, let's say you have like a special crazy button with some nice transitions that you've done in a site that kind of has all of your components. Then if you make updates to that component, if you copy paste it again, it'll actually remember that it originally came from that source.
Wow.
And just update the existing styles. So we've had to do a lot of work around like kind of merging styles like that in and keeping track of where things are coming from. But that also means that if you copy paste a button twice, for example, it's not going to duplicate, button 1, button 2, button 3 type of classes. It'll all still be shared across the pasted component.
That is cool. And one of the things that I mentioned in a previous workshop is creating a style guide, and just using this that style guide project as something you can duplicate, or as a template. You would clone that template and then use that as your starting point. But cross-site copy-paste would be easier because you have like a library of buttons and styles and whatnot, and you can just copy it from that site and put it to any other future sites. That's going to be awesome.
Yep, and the other kind of use case there, which we found to be very useful with copy paste, is that you can go back to, for example, let's say you have an older version of your site, and you open it up from the backups tab and look at it in preview mode. You can actually copy from older versions of your site and bring it back to the new one, which is really nice.
Oh man, there's many times that I've needed that in the past. Oh, that sounds cool. We got more questions about more features, and I know this one's an old one, and I'm just gonna go straight to the Joss and Daniel's asking about uploading and hosting PDFs directly inside of Webflow.
Yes. Okay. So that's been a kind of contentious one. We had this entire project to revamp our asset manager to allow a lot more different file types and things like that. But we're going to chunk that into smaller projects. And the first thing on the plate is the ability to upload non-image assets into the asset manager. So that would initially include PDFs so that you can bypass the whole add it to, you can upload a PDF file, let's say drag in a button and link that button to download that PDF versus having to, let's say, go to Dropbox, add it in there, link to it externally. And then it'll also come along, like if you're exporting your site, the PDF would be in the list of exported files, etc.
Nice. There you go, Justin, Daniel, and the rest of the community. That answers that, and of course, we don't have a firm time when that's going to come out, but it is coming. Another big feature that a lot
the Conan O'Brien skit in the year 2000.
in the year 2020.
Yeah.
No, it's not going to take that long. All right. Question from Blaze. He's asking, site search function?
Yeah, this is something that we're scoping out right now. We're researching it. We're frustrated by the lack of options that are out there. We have to use external tools like SwiftType, et cetera, for our own help site, and they become really, really expensive. I think SwiftType starts at $200+. And it's something that we are looking into, whether we can just build it into core Webflow. It's still too early to tell exactly what the scope of that might be, but we are seriously looking at it as one of the top things on our roadmap right now.
Cool.
We haven't started development, to be honest. It's just right now it's in the process of doing research, talking to users and customers, and seeing what, if anything, would make sense for us to build into the Webflow platform.
And there's still some third-party platforms that are helping out. You've mentioned SwiftType, but there's other free features or free search tools like Google Custom Search, and
Right.
there's Fineberry I've seen on the forums, and there's another one, I forgot the name of it. But yeah, if you need site search now, third-party is already available, but just like Vlad said, we are researching how we can make our own. So,
yeah, I see Dave mentioned that search is something you can easily charge $5 a month for. You should tell that to SwiftType, who's charging us $250.
Let's see here. Riley is asking. Oh, and here Chavez too is asking the same thing. Okay, so Riley and Chavez, their question is: any plans for Webflow having a user database system? So I think this goes into the web app type of deal.
Sure. So I'll be honest about that. Like, that's something that could potentially be on the long-term roadmap for Webflow. But right now we're really far away from that. I would say at least a year away from actual user systems. Webflow right now is meant more for presentational dynamic websites, not necessarily Ruby on Rails, Django type of full-on applications. It'll be a huge undertaking to do actual user systems, and that takes Webflow into almost a different class of functionality. And before we do something like that, we want to make sure that we cover everything that's needed in kind of mainline web design, which includes large things like site search, e-commerce, localization, internationalization, a lot of the things like multi-language sites, image galleries, the kinds of things that you would typically see on a WordPress site, for example, before we move into full-on applications. But what we have coming in a couple weeks is per-page password protection, where you can actually define custom passwords for different routes on the page in different folders, and it sort of like inherits top-down, so you can have like a different password for a specific folder for a certain client, and kind of control access that way. And then eventually we'll also expand that to dynamic routes as well. So you'll be able to say, specific items in the CMS. In order to access those, you need a special password specific to that CMS thing. But it's not, it'll only ask for a password that you enter. It will not have like a username, password type of login system.
Yeah. So it's that's something that we would love to create like our own web apps, but far ahead into the future. We got one from We Design London. Will there be a much more sophisticated rich text element or interface?
Yes, so that's part of the infrastructure work that I mentioned earlier. Oh, by the way, real quick question since I've saw it come up a couple times. We are working on a 1200 pixel media query. It's in the very short term pipeline. So
Yes.
that doesn't necessarily provide like full on custom breakpoints. But in a lot of cases, that solves the vast majority of problems for larger sites. And a lot of times we've seen like changing actual media queries to be somewhat of an anti-pattern, especially if you're using something like Bootstrap or Foundation, where we actually want to encourage people to work in sort of relative breakpoint ranges where you work with percent-based positioning versus pixel-based positioning, whereas having completely custom breakpoints can lead to, which we've seen with Adobe Edge Reflow and previous tools that didn't really work out like Macaw, where it leads to like really kind of short-term fast fix solutions that lead to really bloated style sheets and a lot of kind of unexpected errors that come from thinking about pixel based and lots of very kind of finite media queries.
Yeah, that's
But
and
anyway, the what was the original question before I went off on?
oh, it was the rich text interface.
Yeah, so actually, this is something I'm really excited by because the what we've been doing is abstracting away what a rich text element even is, to enable very soon the ability to have any type of nodes inside of rich text elements. So what that means is, let's say right now in rich text nodes you have a very finite set of things that you can do. You can add like headings, paragraphs, maybe an image and a video, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't, let's say, add a slider to your blog post, and that's a legitimate Webflow component
Yeah.
that you might want to add to a blog post. And right now it requires like pretty crazy workarounds where you do like a rich text one and then a slider and then rich text two, and that becomes even more complicated when you have dynamic pages. So what we're working on right now is kind of unifying how we store Webflow sites to where all nodes are just nodes. And there's no, you can just move, let's say you have like an entire layout potentially. You can move that into a CMS rich text field or something like
Oh
that.
wow.
We're going to be kind of careful around rolling that out slowly. So, initially we might add, lightbox functionality into rich text nodes, and then lists, and then nested lists, and kind of slowly open up the capabilities. But the idea is that eventually you'll be able to have a similar level of control of nodes inside of a rich text area that you would in any other part of Webflow. So imagine, adding like columns into a rich text blog post that you're writing.
Yeah.
That should definitely be possible, and that's not something that's possible in Webflow today.
Wow. Yeah. So it's like the first step to something bigger. Cool. I
Yeah.
like that one.
We are, though, just a clarification on that, we
Mhm.
still want to enforce good authoring principles between a designer and, like, for example, a client or a collaborator that's editing content on the CMS side.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that when content is entered, it's purely content. It's not presentation. We don't want to enable kind of a WordPress style. Any user can just select some text and make it red or something like that. That should be handled through style systems and abstractions like that, where you kind of separate the presentation from the content, and the content stands on its own. And that way, when the presentation changes centrally, then it changes across the entire site.
Nice. Nice. Um, Bob's question. Last time you were on the stream, you revealed that we're working on a plugin marketplace, and you spoke about this earlier in this stream when we were talking about interactions 2.0. So, interactions and plugin marketplace go hand in hand, and is that on the same status as interactions 2.0?
That's going to be rolled out in phases as well. So our first step is to kind of rebuild all of our existing components down from the simple div up to the complicated components we have, like sliders and nav bars, etc., so that they serve as an example for future third-party developers to see how to implement Webflow components and plugins from start to finish. And there's a lot of complexity that goes into building these, because you have to specify how these components render, how like the Webflow UI changes when you kind of specify how that component behaves. For example, for a slider, you might add a new slide and then set sort of the transition time and change whether you can have like two slides side by side or whatever. And then there's a lot of like drag and drop rules. For example, you can't put a link inside of a link, or you can't have like a container or columns inside of a nav bar. And all these things we want to sort of enforce centrally so that new plugin developers don't have to worry about like all this crazy drag and drop logic that we have to worry about. So it's going to be through, as we perform this first phase of getting our own components rebuilt and build out a lot of the components that we're kind of lacking in right now, and we're investigating, things like modals, things like dynamic image galleries. I mentioned dynamic sliders. There's quite a few, like imagine making a dynamic map where you can, if your CMS items have like a latitude, longitude, you can drag in a dynamic map and show like points that correspond to whatever results that you get from the CMS. So things like that, we're going to have an initial set of components that aren't going to be necessarily like an open, completely published sort of theme forest or Code Canyon type of plugin library, but it will set the stage for something like that. So our biggest priority right now is to unlock more and more functionality inside of Webflow, while at the same time creating like this baseline core infrastructure to make it possible for us to move much faster in the future. And that just means like more features faster.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Like for example, like part of the work that we're doing right now is heavily tied into one of the core features we want to release later, which is localization, the ability to build localized UIs and pages based on switching language inside of the CMS or on the page, right? Like all of that should be seamless and integrated, where you don't have to rely on some third-party plugin after the fact to go translate your page. All of that should be central to the CMS itself. But in order to get that ready, we've had to do a lot of underlying infrastructure work, because initially when we launched Webflow, we just thought it's just going to be a simple one-page website builder, and now we see that it can be so much more than that. It could be like a centralized way to build initially like really complicated websites, but eventually even full-on applications. So and we want to do things right, so that's why we're taking the time to make sure we set the groundwork right now.
Nice. Next one. Let's see here. Tamir says, any plans to support CSS nested classes and CSS pseudo elements like colon before, colon after, etc.?
That's been we actually did some prototyping around before and after a little while ago. It's unfortunately kind of complicated because browsers don't give you any APIs to, let's say, measure that node, because they're not real nodes, so to say. So we've had some technical challenges implementing those. We are working on doing some research around some of the more, I would say, easier selectors, like first child, nth child, last child, odd, even type of selectors. So we definitely want to move towards um, a world where all the capabilities of CSS are in Webflow. Although that said, we want to make sure that we encourage correct application building principles. And usually, what I mean by that is, we see a lot of applications where just the CSS gets out of hand, out of control, even with like really sophisticated developers. You see style sheets where you have nested classes up to 10 levels deep just because somebody needs to increase the CSS specificity to override some value that some other developer said. And that's the kind of thing that is really, it's sort of, I don't know, it sneaks up on you and then it's hard to remove. That's why we want to encourage better practices inside of the Webflow tool that makes it sometimes harder. So for example, one thing that kind of speaks to that, before you could select any link on a page or let's say any paragraph, and Webflow would default to selecting all paragraphs or all links in the UI.
Yeah.
And that would lead to a lot of, it could be a quick type of fix to get that paragraph to work right. But what you wouldn't know is that it's kind of messing up a lot of things across the page. So we made it a little bit more difficult to select, tag-based selectors. So we made that more of an advanced or an expert feature that takes a couple more clicks, just to make sure that we're not encouraging, anti-patterns with CSS development.
Yeah, it's a fine balance you have to do to choose which features to roll out, which ones to start researching on, and so it's quite interesting what you guys at HQ are doing. Um, this is a good one, and it was asked a while ago by Pete, and I would like this. Is FontAwesome inside of Webflow?
Actually, I just saw their Kickstarter campaign where they have the new FontAwesome 5.
Yeah.
The reason we stayed away from what would I call them, like font-based icon sets in the past, is just because it's something that the entire industry is moving away from.
Oh.
And now that FontAwesome has moved pretty much full scale to SVGs, we do have a icons in Webflow project that's being scoped out right now. We haven't committed yet to like a specific icon set or something like that, because when you use something like FontAwesome, you have to have specific rights on a per site basis, and that has some complexity with it. We can't announce, for example, FontAwesome support in Webflow that's available to everyone without everybody having to make sure that they have a specific license on a specific site. So we're going to kind of have a wait and see approach, because FontAwesome, for example, now gives you SVGs. Those can always be uploaded directly into Webflow. I realize it's not quite the same as going to some tab and selecting an icon by doing a quick search, but that's definitely on the horizon for Webflow. Like we imagine a much smoother sort of asset management workflow across the board when it comes to photos, stock photos, images, animations, videos, background videos, things like that. Eventually, that'll be like a really, really seamless experience. And fonts as well. Like right now, you have to go to Typekit or you have to go to fonts.com. Eventually, that font management, licensing, all of that will be kind of part of the workflow in the designer. We just have to, we have bigger fish to fry right now, because there is a workaround, to plug in Typekit, while there is no workaround for, let's say, password protected pages. Like it's just something that if Webflow doesn't support, a lot of people just can't use Webflow, and it's much more pressing, so to say.
Yeah. All right. Before I get to the next questions, again, I want to say thank you, Vlad, for taking all of these questions and taking time out of your day. My question right now is, you've created such a huge community, a huge platform for a lot of designers to finally create sites quicker and more streamlined and make everyone happy. How are you keeping it together right now? I'm like, I'm just so impressed by how this platform has launched, and it's like it's going super well. Like I wouldn't know how to deal with the stresses. It's like, are you doing yoga? Is there something I can learn from you? What is it?
Just massive, massive amounts of drugs.
Oh
Uh,
my.
just kidding. Totally joking. No, it's really awesome to see the community forming around Webflow. It's still, we're nowhere near kind of WordPress or anything like that, but it's really promising just to see so many passionate people in the community sort of form around our product. And it's the biggest thing that keeps me going is just hearing all the stories of uh, like literally people making their entire living off of Webflow, where they're able to say, I was completely overwhelmed by development or making websites in the past. I didn't even consider an option. Then I discovered Webflow, and now my income comes from, like, I put food on the table because Webflow exists, and that to me is like, that's magical. Like, there's nothing that can possibly replace that, and that's what I think keeps me and the team going.
Yeah, most definitely.
Sometimes it's easy to get bogged down in the details, like, oh, something is shipping late, or we're frustrated with uh, technical challenges. But at the end of the day, what we're really doing is empowering a lot more people to have access to the creative potential on the web, not the consumption potential. Like, we're talking about web accessibility all the time, where we're making HTML more readable for screen readers and things like that. But we're doing very little to like as an industry to empower an order of magnitude or 10 times many, 100 times as many people to actually create on this platform. It's still limited to such a small subset of the world's population, something like 0.25% that know how to code. And our mission is to bring that power into the hands of creative people that can't go through this entire process of learning how to code. And the crazy thing is that even people who have known how to code from day one of the web, which started out much, much easier, by the way, you could pick up a book and learn all of HTML in like a weekend because there were only 20 tags. Whereas today you spend 6 months going to code school, and you're still completely overwhelmed at the complexity of the web. Even like really senior experienced programmers are, you take 3 months off and you come back to JavaScript land, and you're like, what happened here? I don't understand anything. That's I feel 100 years behind. So we're taking like all these best practices and principles and putting it into an interface, and that's exactly what happened with 3D animation and desktop publishing. It's sort of like letting computers do what they do best, and leave the creativity to us humans, mere mortals.
Yeah, and a lot
So
of
anyway, yeah, that's what keeps me going.
and it shows like a lot of people in the live chat room right now are just saying their praises how Webflow has changed their life, and yeah, it's changed my life too. And again, it's why Webflow exists, because of you guys and helping you guys out. So again, thank you to you, Vlad, and Bryant and Sergi for making this real. And let's go back to the questions. Sean is asking, so directories and folders. So when you when you export a Webflow site, you get everything. You get all the images, CSS, JS, and all the HTML.
Mm-hmm.
But will there be a point where you can export just a certain directory or just a certain page, like a checkbox or something?
That would probably come after our Asset Manager 2.0 work, where you could organize assets into folders and things like that. So right now we haven't had many discussions about that, because that's something you can kind of automate, after you export. Although Dave is saying that's not what. Oh, so I think what the actual question is, can you make a kind of like a route or a page that, let's see, so you can have a folder. I guess it's like an index page inside of a folder.
Oh, okay.
Almost like a home page kind of defaults to the /.
Oh, okay.
That is something that that we're investigating, and with the recent, what do you call it, the password protected pages work, since a lot of pages work has been redone, there's a much cleaner system now that will enable that. And I think the initial approach idea we had for that was that if you just happen to call your add a page that has a slug of index inside of a folder, it'll just work like that. It'll be kind of like an alias for when you load that folder without the word index, it'll load the index page, which is essentially what happens right now on the homepage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Daniel is asking, simple one, CMS, will they have folders? And I think the CMS already does, because when you create a collection.
So right now the CMS has single level fold, like basically once you have a collection and a collection slug, which is sort of the collection ID, let's say posts / and then the post ID. There are no plans right now to make that multi-nested. Like, so for example, you would, I think the idea is to have something like, /blog /posts / categories, something like that. Right now we haven't seen many limitations of the current way we do URLs for dynamic pages. So we'll kind of take a wait and see approach to see if some use cases come out that kind of help us justify working on nested dynamic folders.
Okay. One that's this is an old question, and it's coming from Tim. CMS pagination.
Yeah, I know that's a huge limitation in Webflow right now. It is something that is enabled by the ground level kind of plugin work that I mentioned. So that's something that we're considering for in the short term. I don't know when we'll actually get that implemented. It might start with a smaller sort of scope where you only have next previous type of buttons, or like show more, and then expand into the whole like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of page list. But right now, because there is admittedly an annoying manual workaround where you can kind of create pages and then set offsets, we haven't heard that much around like more sophisticated pagination, but it is something that I expect that we'll have relatively soon.
Cool. Michael is asking, discover page. Oh, I think that's just for me. The community challenges. Okay, so that's one that I need to answer. Yeah, I need to work on that. I need to figure out. So I talked to Sergi, and Sergi is working on actual new, like, the hire me button was going to be replaced with the actual like experts page.
Yes, there's a new we're going to be launching a Webflow experts directory. Right now we're in the process of collecting portfolios and looking through the work of a lot of Webflow experts to see who to initially seed inside of the experts directory. And the idea behind that is to have a trusted single place where you can see previous work for certain experts or freelancers, and just the ability to point a lot of our customers or a lot of our users that happen to land on Webflow, but they're not quite, they're not web designers. They just want a website built for them. They just need something that is, really turnkey and professional, and they're willing to pay for that. And we want to facilitate that relationship and bring a lot more business to Webflow experts and give more people the incentive to learn Webflow, because we'll be able to send them business. So that is something that's still, it's completely designed. We have the site ready to go. We're just in the last stages of collecting more experts so that when we launch, it doesn't look like, there's just a few people in there. But I think we already have, I don't know the exact number, but there's quite a few. And if any of you want more information on that, you can get in touch with Nelson, and then we'll make sure to connect you to Sergi.
Okay, yeah. Just tweet me then and I'll put it in the chat room. Webflow_Nelson is my Twitter handle. So yeah, hit me up if you want to be part of that, and I'll ask Sergi about it. Joss is asking client billing, and I've heard this a couple of times too. So, is there any way to get more payment options for client billing, like say PayPal or Google Wallet or something like that, to make it more accessible for people's clients to pay up?
Yeah, right now we don't have any immediate plans to change that. We rely a lot on Stripe. So as they release more options, we sort of absorb those. I think they're looking at ACH type of bank payments, and then they're constantly expanding to new countries. I don't know about PayPal. I think they have a pretty kind of almost competitive relationship with them, and we haven't seen enough demand yet to bypass credit cards and go with PayPal, because there's like higher fraud rates, higher. We've just seen most people are able to come up with a credit card option. Haven't seen much of a need to add the other options, but that's kind of, again, a wait and see approach. If we see a lot more demand for PayPal options, maybe, I don't know, I've heard Payoneer or some other sort of cross-country type of payment systems. As we see more demand for those, we certainly will consider them.
All right. So we're gonna take the last three questions. We're getting to the last 10 minutes of the hour, and yeah. So let's get to Tisa. Let's see here. Would there be an option for designer access? Oh, okay. I don't know about this one, but this is how would you say that? Tsar Volko. It's would there be an option for designer access for collaborators? Designer access collaborators for every pricing plan. Okay.
Not quite sure.
Yeah, not sure what that means. Can you rephrase that, Sar? We're gonna go to the next one from. Let's see here. What's Sean saying?
Somebody mentioned a visual email design tool.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, most email is still designed via tables, which is a 15-year-old HTML technology. But just recently, Gmail came out with media queries and CSS inside of Gmail. So we hope to see a lot more adoption from other email vendors, especially mobile clients and a bunch of others, in which case we will be able to kind of apply core Webflow principles in order to build visual emails, which would be really, really awesome. Because we have to, even internally, we have to kind of hand edit a bunch of HTML table code just to get our emails to look nice. And it's just a hugely frustrating process.
Yeah, HTML emails, man, it's I don't know. I've always wondered, like, why hasn't it grown up? But I guess it's finally moving forward. Last two questions. We're gonna take one from Michael and then Chavez, and then that is it. So Michael asks, will we be able to use CSS filters with Interactions 2.0? Is that something
that is the goal? That's in scope for the first version.
Oh, nice.
2.0, 1.0. But yeah, that's the idea. Like, that was actually something that we meant to include in the first release of CSS filters. Mm-hmm. There was just a lot of complexity around some older code that didn't really allow for that. But the plan is to allow transitions. So, for example, the same way that you would affect opacity, you could make changes in a CSS filter.
Yeah, that would be super cool. All right, last question. It's a good one from Chavez. Where do you see Webflow in 5 years?
Albuquerque, because rents are cheaper there. No, just kidding.
Uh-huh.
Uh, that is a good question. I mean, the vision is very, very similar to when we first started. We imagine Webflow to be an all-in-one web design and deployment and workflow tool. Similarly to how pretty much every other creative discipline has one tool to do all the work that they do. For example, in 3D animation, you have Maya that does modeling, rigging, animation, particle effects, rendering. It's all kind of all in one place, and you let creative people work directly with the medium that they are creating on, and you press a button and it goes to the render server and it's done. Same thing with if you're designing a magazine. It used to be that you would do this on paper and give it to a typesetter, and then the typesetter would convert it to PostScript or whatever, and then end up on the printer. We've gotten rid of all that, and now creative people working in print design are using InDesign, setting up their style guides, their style systems there, creating really complicated, book layouts, magazine layouts. They're all very unique, and they press a button and it goes live. With web design, nothing even remotely close exists. Webflow is probably the closest, but we have so much more to go, to catch up to a lot of the capability of, well-established, decade-plus old CMS systems like, WordPress, et cetera. But the way that we imagine Webflow growing is this all-in-one integrated solution where you have the power of and the flexibility of creating a completely turnkey custom solution, and yet you still have that ease of use that doesn't require you to set up a build server and go open up some like PHP template and move HTML and CSS around. So our vision is pretty much that, to keep executing on that. And there's so much more we need to do in that realm. Like, we're talking about even something as simple as setting up a shop on Shopify, and you want to make some customizations. Right now, you have to go take an entire course in like a programming language called Liquid just to make some edits, right? That should be as easy as designing as you would in Webflow with kind of the dynamic CMS sort of process that you're used to, very quickly binding like a buy button to a buy action, and boom, everything just works out of the box, and you potentially even have like a auto-integrated analytics, A/B testing, CRM system. All that could be a possibility down the road. But we see us as really wanting to solve this problem of being a web designer's secret weapon. Hopefully not too secret. Hopefully you all tell your friends about it. But this tool that can help you, this tool and platform that can help you run your business and help other businesses get off the ground and take advantage of the internet, because that's really the end goal. We're not just we're not trying to build a business just for ourselves. We want to increase the entire economic output of the internet. And a lot of people are not taking advantage of the power of the internet, of this globally distributed medium, because it's so hard and so expensive to get something custom done. So you have to be either, paying $7 a month and doing it yourself on Squarespace or something like that, or 15 or whatever, up to tens of thousands of dollars to get a custom development done. And what we want to do is offer an option in the middle where somebody can have all the power of the custom development at a tenth of the time and a tenth of the cost. And when you can empower a single individual to learn how to do that from scratch in a matter of weeks, if not days, that's something that's really powerful. And I think that can empower a lot of people to consider web design as an option and web development as an option, even though they're not, you're still developing for the web. You may not be writing code, but you have the same exact effect and the same exact sort of output that has a lot of value to a lot of businesses. Um, so, like a business may not care that it took you a tenth of the time to build something in Webflow. It has the same value to them, and they are still willing to pay the same price. So it's really exciting to see, more and more people empowered to do this type of work where it wasn't possible before. And by the way, we're not selling to to any other company, so don't worry about that. We built a stable business. We don't anticipate needing. Um, I think it would ruin the potential of Webflow if we were to be acquired anytime soon. I think somebody would want to milk it for all of its worth versus like really innovating on a brand new sort of visual development model that we're really chasing. So
Wow. Well, great vision, and it's the reason why a lot of us in the community, especially in the live chat room, are following this product and basically following you, Sergi, and Bryant's lead in making the web design industry better. So thank you again for creating such a wonderful product. Thank you for taking the time to speak to the community. And yeah, maybe in another 6 months we'll be talking again about even bigger things. Yeah?
yep, I
Okay.
know that's gonna be the case. So
Yeah. So thank you. Just gonna do my usual sign offs. Thank you to everyone in the live chat room. There was a lot of you, a ton of you. I'm looking at my counter and it looks like at least 74 people are here right now. Wow. Thank you guys for taking time out of your days to listen to Vlad and get your questions answered. Thank you to everyone who's came from the forums. Usual signups. If you have any customer support related issues like account billing or technical stuff like bugs or whatever, just email support@webflow.com. If there's
email
a
me directly.
what?
I almost said email me directly.
Okay, if you want to take those. If you have any design or custom code issues, yeah, just post them on the forum at forum.webflow.com. The wonderful community, the global community there will help you out. And once you learn something, please help someone else and grow this community and make it super fun because it's just a bunch of love around the community. If you want to hit us up on social media, it's at Webflow app on Twitter or facebook.com/Webflow. You can hit me up at Webflow_Nelson, or if you want to talk to Vlad directly, it's at Call Me Vlad. And this stream happens every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And anything else you want to say to the community before we sign off, Vlad?
Put me on the spot.
Sorry.
No, I just want to reiterate just the huge thank yous for this awesome community. From day one, the community has made, I think, us way more successful than we would have been if we were just out there trying to do this on our own. Pretty much everyone that joined the Webflow team came from the Webflow community. I mean, Nelson, you were super active on our forum and helping people in the community pretty much from the beta days with absolutely no incentives that I can think of. And that same thing goes to, Bart and Anna and
Dave.
Waldo and Dave. I mean, these things it's just an amazing amount of luck that we were able to, strike upon this idea that is truly, genuinely exciting for people and empower them to the point where you all are willing to sacrifice your time to help others, to teach others, to tell more people about what's possible with Webflow, what's possible in web design, what they can do to improve their own sort of economic life and make a living. And that's something that is it's very, very hard to manufacture from scratch, or fake it. So it's really awesome to have such an amazing community. I want to see it grow by an order of magnitude, by 10 times, in the next year, which is totally possible. Because I don't know, like that feeling where I can, for the first time, sit next to somebody who has an idea that they want to, participate in web design, or build a product that they've always imagined, or make some sort of landing page for an idea that they've had, and sitting down for the first time, and especially with dynamic lists and the CMS, just the power of showing how quickly you can build an application. You can see that glint in someone's eyes, and that's just the magical moment. And I see that happening many times over in the forum, in some of the meetups that we do, in person kind of teaching sessions that I have with family members, with friends, etc. And I think that's something that's I don't know, it's this pay it forward type of mentality that I love seeing or experiencing and seeing examples of. So thank you again for all the community, all the excitement around Webflow. We're certainly here to make sure that all of you are more successful. We're not here to, make the maximum amount of money possible or whatever. In fact, with the new pricing updates, we're taking like a significant haircut just to make sure that we are doing what's right for the community, to make our product simpler to understand, to make it to increase the chance that Webflow is having much bigger impact versus just for the Webflow team. So we want to just encourage the community to do things like meetups, teach other people, do like little classes with universities, which we've seen a lot of impact from, where you can do a little demo for a bunch of high school students or university freshmen, and just seeing that something is possible and seeing the steps to do that often is enough to create that spark to get people to believe that they're able to do that as well. And that's something that, for me, when I started I did 3D animation initially. And the only reason I did that for close to 4 years was because I looked at somebody's screen and they were making this particle effect animation that just looked amazing. And I could see from start to finish how they did that in like 10 minutes. And I said to myself, wow, okay, I can be that. I can be a visual effects expert. And seeing that same level of excitement around Webflow is just amazing.
Yeah, thank you, and to everyone else in the live chat room, I will see you next Tuesday at 10 a.m. And as always, make the web beautiful. See you guys.
Thanks everyone. Take care.